Hey everyone, so live here. Sorry for the little bit delay today. Welcome to another Rokoko office hours. Hopefully all the audio is fine, which we'll see if people start coming in. Yeah, I'm Sam Lazarus, creative director for Rokoko, and welcome to office hours. This is normally a time when we create some free mocap, talk Rokoko motion capture workflow stuff, and are just generally here to be live and talk to you guys live. So today we're not actually going to be making any mocap, although you can find all the mocap that we have made so far down in the description below. Today we're going to be focusing on the workflow for moving meditations, which is Clinton Jones's latest awesome contest. And let's actually cruise down to another, take a little peek. Let me make sure I can get my cool. I need to be in my circle mode. So yeah, Clinton Jone, the Punisher, he runs a bunch of amazing contests, and this one is basically using Rokoko motion capture, which he recorded all these martial arts moves with, and he's going to stack them all together and make a huge montage of awesome, clips with Rokoko motion capture. So, unfortunately the deadline it's been kind of a crazy month for us with SIGGRAPH, and we had a webinar for iClone last week. So the contest ends, I think, on this Sunday, but we'll go through the workflow. I still think it's interesting, and yeah, maybe helpful still if you're still thinking about submitting. If you're anything like me, you are barely started, if started at all, on this contest. You got to wait till the last weekend to start it. So yeah, maybe this will be useful. So I'm just going to go through kind of my whole workflow. And Clinton basically gave out a bunch of different animations. He gave it a whole starter pack. If you go to his Discord, let's open up his Discord here. This has all the information you could ever want about how to get started and where to find the project files and everything. So you can check out his Discord for if you want to actually start and actually submit for the contest. But this is one of the folders that you get. This is the folder that you get, and in it you can see that we have, here's like a reference sheet with all the different animations that he made, which was using one of his friends who is an amazing, clearly, martial artist or Tai Chi practitioner. I think this is Tai Chi. Again, check the Discord for more info. But he made 27 different animations to choose from. You can use any of them, and you render out your own specific scene using the project file that he gave you, so they all match. And he makes these incredible montages using all this, all the different animations that people submit. So in today's office hours, I thought I could kind of talk through how I would go about, using the animations that he provided. They don't come in a T-pose, so that can be a little tricky to deal with. But, other than that, if anyone has any questions or anything like that about Rokoko in general, or about moving meditations, or about anything else, feel free to throw it in the chat. Hello, Jobinated, good to see you. And yeah, and also if you haven't gotten started yet and there is a particular animation that you want to use, excuse me, I can also, go ahead and prep that for you into a T-pose. Hello, Pippo, what's going on? Okay, so yeah, the first thing that we need to do is, he gave us all these animations, right? So we need to figure out how to get these onto a character. And if you check out the first frame of all of them, they all match, right? They're all this like static pose, which is a really good idea, I think, for like a montage, right? But for retargeting onto your character, usually what you want to do is you need to have your character's starting pose and the animation starting pose both as a T-pose. Hey, real time, what's going on? Again, yeah, we're just, sorry, I got started So just right off the bat. But if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're talking about moving meditations, Clinton Jones's contest that he's running right now, where you can win a bunch of Rokoko stuff. But yeah, just gonna talk through the workflow on that. So yeah, so you know, the first thing that you kind of will run into is, how do I retarget this animation onto my character, right? Because if you use Mixamo, for example, it's gonna do it all for you. And we're not gonna use Mixamo because we need to use this animation that's provided to us. And this is, you know, retargeting is a big part of Rokoko Mocap, right? Because the workflow is always to record your motion capture, export it out, retarget it onto your character, right? Hopefully in the future we'll have that you'll be able to do that easier, like in Rokoko Studio, but currently, you know, you got to figure out how to retarget it, and that's either in Maya, it's in Blender, it's in Cinema 4D, it's in Unreal, it's in Unity, it could be in any, you know, whatever 3D software you use, but usually you're gonna need that animation to be in a T pose or in an A pose. If you're in Unreal, for example, you just want the animation, the first frame of that animation to match your character. So usually characters come in a T pose. So if they're in a T pose, you need the animation to be in a T pose. If they're in an A pose, you need the animation to be in an A pose, at least at frame 0, right? Because that's gonna be the reference frame for transferring all the motion capture onto your character. So it's pretty easy to do this, but let's go through and do it how I did it. And so I'll open up this character. And so actually, first of all, maybe let's just talk about where you could get characters from, right? First place you get characters from is Mixamo. It's got a bunch of free characters. You know, let's go to mixamo.com. You can download them in a T-pose. That makes it, right, really easy to get the animation onto the characters if you have your animation in a T-pose. Most Rokoko usually comes in a T-pose as the first frame, but for the animations that Clint provided, which were recorded with Rokoko, they set it up so that they're not in a T-pose. But, you know, you could grab a character from Mixamo. I want this, you know, soldiery, cool desert guy, right? Select the character. This is mixamo.com. If you don't know it, I'm sure you do. You know, T-pose, make sure it's a T-pose applied, download, boom. Now it's pretty easy, again, if your mocap is in a T-pose, to get it on there. But what you're looking for is a character in a T-pose. What I'm doing for my character, which I've barely, again, begun on, is I'm using Daz. And Daz is a great character creation software. It's kind of like Character Creator 4, Character Creator 3 from Reallusion, where you can make different characters, you can buy characters on their marketplace, you can use different parameters to kind of sculpt your character. I'm doing kind of like a zombie scene, so let's see if I don't have the zombie I'm actually using, but it doesn't matter, we'll just use this zombie. So this is, again, a character that I found on Daz.com on the marketplace. You know, characters aren't, you can find some pretty cheap ones. But here we go, cool looking zombie, right? And this guy, you'll notice, obviously isn't in a T-pose either. But there is a great way to get Daz characters into Maya, which is what I'm going to be using to retarget our mocap. So you can use something called the a Daz bridge. So you can also send them into Cinema 4D or Blender or Unreal. It's pretty easy to get these up and running. Now you pretty much download Daz, which is free, and you just go to like File, Send to, you have your character selected over here, and then you can install plugin and it'll kind of walk you through it, and they have tutorials that'll help you as well. I've already installed the plugin. So what will happen if I do this, let's export him over to Maya, because I'm just trying to get my character, right? It exported, then I'd open up Maya, which I have open over here. There's a Daz to plug in little shelf tool, Daz import, take a second to open up, boom, auto import. It uses a temp folder to store that character, that IK control rig, boom, which is really cool because it makes it easy to, you know, make changes to the mocap that's non-destructive. And yeah, so this is a great way to get a character. So this is what I did, right? I'm doing a zombie character. So I got a character from Daz, ported it over to Maya, and then I retargeted it. But, okay, let's say we're here, right? This is a character, it's set up, it's ready to get mocap. If I pull in any normal Rokoko mocap, let's go pull in normal Rokoko motion capture. So this is just mocap, some of the free mocap, again, that we've made on the stream, which you can download in the description below. Where is it? Oh, I'm set to OBJ. Let's go import an FBX, because that's how I export my mocap. Confused Travolta, which was like a meme mocap that we made. Again, all this is free. It's in the description below. You just have to copy that little short URL, which isn't clickable, which is frustrating. But anyway, you'd import it. Boom, this is my Rokoko mocap. It's really small, doesn't really matter. You know, here's our confused Travolta. What's going on? And but you can see, look, this is how it imports. First frame, go to frame 2 or frame 1 is like the frame where the motion starts, but it gives you that first frame as a T-pose. And that's because normally you need your mocap to match the character's starting position, right? So if I wanted to get this mocap on, reconnect. Sorry, looks like I'm disconnecting and connecting. Sorry, the Wi-Fi is a little weird in here. Sorry, everyone. If you missed that, you know, yeah, I've got my mocap, it's in a T-pose, right? If I wanted to get it onto my character, we have tons of tutorials about how to do this in Maya, which is my preferred way to retarget mocap because I think it's really easy. It's also pretty easy in Blender. It's more difficult in Cinema, unfortunately. It's more difficult in Unreal usually. But you know, again, you can look up the tutorial on how to do this, select the hips, load in this human IK preset. Bada boom, bada bing. We got confused Travolta, right? Bolero, hey, how you doing? Which is actually really funny. It's actually hilarious. I don't quite know why. This is a great character. Look at his little bottom. Right, so that's how we would do this normally. That's the normal way to get Rokoko mocap onto your character. However, I'm going to reset this. So this is how it just pulled in, and I'm going to delete this, our Rokoko mocap that we pulled in. The mocap that Clint has given out, we go to animations, you can see all these animations, 27 different martial arts, Tai Chi based animations. Let's pull in one of these. So I'll go import, you know, it's on my desktop, on my very messy at this point desktop, which I apologize for, moving meditation starter files. This is what you can download from the Discord, from Clint's Discord. Animations, random one. Animation 19. Here it is. So you can see on frame, it's kind of hard to see, but frame 0, there's actually no keyframes on frame 0. Hi, Kazek 3D. There's no keyframes on frame 0, right? Keyframes start on frame 1. But it doesn't really matter because frame 0, you can see this character is not in a T-pose. And if the character is not in a T-pose, you can't retarget it onto your character that is in a T-pose. I'm sorry, if your mocap isn't starting in a T-pose, you can't retarget it onto your character who is in a T-pose. So how do we fix that problem right off the bat? Well, this is what I did. I'm gonna go into Cinema 4D because that's where I generally work. I really only use Maya for retargeting. I don't do anything else in Maya that isn't like specifically retargeting because I don't know Maya as well. It's just easier for me to do things in Cinema. Honestly, this is probably a lot messier. You could do this, what we're about to do, in Maya or in Blender or in whatever program you want. But what we're gonna do is because, let's go to moving meditations. Where is that? Oh, golly, look at how messy this is. Moving meditations, animations. Let's say we are gonna go with animation 19, randomly chosen. Import it in. Here it is. Make sure we're in 24 frames a second. Make sure we're ending at 144 frames, which is the end of the, it's 6 seconds at 24 frames a second. All these details are in, on the Discord, but that's kind of the length at each, so you can see it loops perfectly at 144 frames. And what you need to export is frame 1 to 144. And there's no keyframes on frame 0. So what we're gonna do is basically just go, and I'm gonna go into my multi-view here. I'm gonna take the front view and the top view, and I'm just gonna, if I hold down Control, I can expand out all these. And again, you can see, look, frame 0, no keyframes on any of these joints, no keyframes. So what we're gonna do is just reposition this character on frame 0, set keys so that it's in a T-pose, and then we'll be able to retarget it onto our character in Maya. Again, you could do this in Maya, right? It doesn't really matter where you do this. The point is, because frame 0 is already empty, not that it would really matter, if there are already keyframes there, we're just gonna keyframe over them. The point is, at that first frame, it's in a T-pose. So, how did I do this? Because I've done a little bit of work. What I essentially did, and you can do the same kind of technique in Maya, is in a T-pose, all the joints are going to be like facing the front, right? So let's take the hips, for example, here. This is the front. And if we just look at the gizmo of our rotation, right? This is how you rotate the hips, right? You can, if you just align everything so it's pointing straight at you, see this? See, like I'm okay, now I'm just gonna do this one, so make sure I don't know if you can see that, but right, there's a red axis right here, the X rotational axis. Just point these at me, make that cross, right? Boom. So this is pointing straight ahead, because this is an orthographic view. So this means, it's the front view. If this is making a cross at me, it means that the hip bone is pointed straight at me, it's level. And that's how you need to be for a T-pose. So, essentially I'm just gonna go through and do this for all of them. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move the hips so it's on, this line here. I want the hips to be perfectly in the center. It doesn't really matter, that part doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna do it because I want to. And again, you can see, if we go to R, rotation, we'll center this. There we go. The hips are clearly, right, pointed at me. And so it moved it back over because I forgot that this character reference is actually keyframed as well. We could delete this one, but it doesn't need to be in the center. The important thing is that the hip is pointed at me. So now let's do the spine. So the same thing, we're just gonna go. I don't know why it's not showing me. The thing isn't, it's so funny it's not moving. There you go. It was on the wrong deal. Yeah, there we go. So same thing with the spine, right? Make that cross. It should just be pointed right at me. And that's it. And we could see, but the most important thing that I haven't done yet, and this is why it actually went back, is I didn't turn on auto keying. We want to turn on auto keying, right? Or we could hit keyframe on all of these. But no, I'm going to just use auto keying. There's the hips. Make sure they're keyframed. Boom. Now I'm going to do the spine. And I'm just going to make that cross, right? Boom. Next one, spine. And I like to do it just on each rotational axis, right? Up and down. It doesn't have to be perfect. Try to get it as perfect as I can, but it doesn't really matter. All we're trying to do is make this into a T-pose. So I'm not going to mess with the let's mess with the clavicles. Why not? Let's party. Same thing. Make that cross. Point it at me, right? left arm. So the left arm, you know, again, we kind of want to make sure that it's, hopefully this makes sense, that I'm pointing it the right way, right? Yeah. This all looks good. Left forearm. And I want to rotate this like this. Boom. And, you know, every time you should have the X axis, this red axis pointing at you. You know, it's pretty easy to kind of just guess this, you know, but the idea is you want, if you just do this method, right, and this one here, the hand, like here, this is pointed off, you know, zooming by me. We just line this guy up. And look, we got a T-pose. I'm not even gonna worry about the hands, the fingers, because I don't think they're animated. So we don't really need to mess with them. In theory, you could straighten them out too, but that's gonna be probably overkill. You know, all these little things. Neck, let's do the neck. Choo. You're just worrying about the rotations, right? I could, but the rotation of a T-pose isn't actually 0, like usually. So sometimes it is. That's a good idea. But the right, let's look to the left arm, for example. You can see this is the rotation of the left arm. It's not 0. If we were to set this to 0, that's 0, which is not correct, right? So I find that this is the best way to do it. You could set them to 0 and kind of then pose them, but like if you set all the bones to 0, usually you'll get like a folded up, like the legs will be pointed straight up and the collarbones will be pointed straight up, and then things will be pointed on right, you know, 90-degree angles. But they won't be in a T-pose, because a T-pose is not, it's like a pose, right? It's like a pose that you've rotated the bones into, right? It's not like the natural, as far as I know, like the natural zeroed out rotations of the bones. That's just been what I found. There's always a million ways to do things in CG, obviously. So that could also totally be true. I just have found it's easier just to do this. And when I'm not talking through it, right, let's do the right arm. It's like, it goes really quick. And again, I just have auto keying on, so pretty easy to do. Boop, see that red? Like good enough. It's probably not like perfect, but boop. Hand. Boop. It's nice when you're in an orthographic view that doesn't matter if this is offset, right? From the center, everything is pointing straight through. That's what it's straight at you. It's not showing you like, it's not going to change if we move over here, right? It's not dependent on our perspective. It's all straight. I think that's what orthographic means. Okay, let's do the leggies. Same thing, right? And this is actually something that you can do with your characters too, as you put them in T-poses, because a lot of characters won't come in a perfect T-pose, at least not a perfect T-pose as far as like Rokoko Mocap is concerned, right? Rokoko Mocap might not be, it's kind of a T-pose where it's very like this, very up and down, very straight. A lot of characters, they'll come in a T-pose, but even if we look at our zombie guy, like his legs are slightly akimbo, slightly apart. So we could do that for him as well. We could kind of make sure that he's a little bit, the closer your character's initial reference pose, right? If it's a T-pose, then the T-pose of your character and the T-pose of your mocap, the closer they are in how they're posed, you know, in terms of if they both have the legs slightly spread, if the arms are slightly up or down as opposed to straight out. Like the closer they are relative to that, like that pose, right? That T pose, the better the mocap transfer is going to be. So we want to match them as closely as possible. Usually you don't really need to be perfect, but if you are doing this, you know, it doesn't hurt. And again, I'm just straightening all these things out, and I've got auto keyer on. Boom, bada bing. Look at this. I'm not even, you know, you can get way more. Again, if you were to zero this out, and then you could see, like, look, there's like, here, we could make this. So this one is 0. So the legs are 0. They should be 0. The calves. This probably 2. So there you go. I mean, it's like not perfect because the hips aren't perfect, but you could do the 0 thing. You could probably, that's a good idea, Elliot. I'm just not doing that. Either way, you're gonna have, oof, internet is struggling. Internet's struggling, sorry y'all. Disconnecting and reconnecting a bunch. I have no idea why. I'm gonna be back in my home office next week. I'm super excited. Love this garage, but it would be nice to have a little bit of control again, because I'm not at my home office. Anyway, look, we went from I'm gonna turn off auto key, non-T-posed first frame to T-posed first frame. So this is now easy to put on our character. Bada boom, bada bing. So I'm gonna export this out. Export out in FBX. I'm just gonna save in the same folder. I'm gonna call it animation 19 underscore T-pose. Boom. And now if we go into Maya, where I'm gonna be doing my retargeting, import that animation 19 T-pose. Here it is. In a T-pose, right? And if we were to add a new character definition. So again, we have tons of tutorials on how to do this in Maya, how to retarget your mocap onto characters in Maya, which I do believe is the best possible program to do it in, although Blender is a close second. Look! We got our mocap on our character. And the nice thing about Maya and about Blender, about whatever, although it's slightly harder in Blender in my opinion, it's slightly less built in. You got to use some add-ons and stuff, but I think to make it easier, like the animation layer add-on in the marketplace, we can really easily fix, like, look at all this clipping we got here. Yuck, 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 yuck. Oh, it's intersecting the arm. No good, right? Ooh, is it intersecting this leg? You bet it is. Boom, no good. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that. However, what we're gonna do first is, because I plan to take this into Marvelous Designer to add some cloth, which I've already done on my character. What you need to usually do for Marvelous Designer is you need to give a period of, if you have something like this in Marvelous Designer, let's say I put on my cloth, right? And I start simulating, and this is the first frame, and then it goes to frame 2, and it's that, in the space of 1 frame. That's gonna make your cloth just flip out. So it's usually pretty typical with things like Marvelous Designer, or I imagine maybe not with Houdini. What you could also do is you could just get your cloth onto the character in its starting pose, like from frame 1, you could put on the cloth. Depends on what you're doing. If it's a t-shirt, that's gonna be easier. This is the cloth that I was going to be using. And so I'll import, what I normally do is I export an OBJ from Marvelous Designer of the cloth I'm going to use. Let's go find it. So I exported an OBJ of the outfit, let's call it. I called it. It's really big. Shrink it down. What I normally do is I will go and on the first frame, I kind of match up the hips and the shoulders, you know, a little bit, but I kind of go like this, right? I will start my character kind of fitting into the cloth. And then over like 30 frames or 15 frames, I'll have it kind of go to that first frame of my animation. So there's, you know, a gentle transition from my character in its cloth up to the starting frame. Because again, if I were to, well, if I was to put the cloth on in Marvelous Designer like this, and this is how my cloth comes, right? This is the cloth. Like this. This is, you know, I got it for $4 online on CG Trader. There's tons of Marvelous Designer projects on CG Trader, which is really cool because, or you can design your own. It's not that tough in Marvelous. But I just buy it for really cheap on CG Trader or Turbo Squid or whatever. And this is how it comes. It doesn't come in a T-pose. This is the pose the cloth is in. So I have two options. I can bring in my character into Marvelous Designer and I can kind of like, you know, I'll hit simulate on the cloth and then but then I have a bunch of problems where the arm is going to be going through the cloth. And so I need to drag the cloth over the arm, and it's much easier to just have the character kind of start in the same position as your cloth and then morph into the first frame of your animation, right? Which is this thing. All this is kind of extra, right? This is a Marvelous Designer workflow we're talking about now. We've already done, if I just wanted to have the zombie, I'm done. I can take this, I could do some edits to this guy to make sure it's not clipping, and then I'm done, right? Easy. That's the retargeting workflow. Because I'm going to be taking this into Marvelous, and actually I've already done that to a degree. I've already kind of done this already. I'm just going over it again. I need to have that slow transition. So what does that mean? That means that I actually want the frames of my mocap to start on, say, frame 30. So what I'm going to do is for this character, I'm going to go back to stance. So this is just the character without the mocap on it. We haven't transferred the mocap yet. We haven't done anything like that yet. I'm going to go find all my mocap bones. These are all my mocap bones here, and you can see the keyframes right here. Right? Here are all the keyframes. I'm going to select all the mocap keyframes except for frame 0. So I just want frame 1. And I'm actually going to even kill frame 0 so I can't accidentally select it. We're in 24 frames a second, you can see here. Oh, I'm blocking this. Hold on, let me move up. So we go back, you know, you can see on frame 1, we have the T-pose, which is fine, which is what we want because we want to transfer the mocap onto our character. It's kind of a multi-step process we're going. This is a Marvelous Designer workflow. But in order to get, what we want is to put 30 frames between this T-pose and the start of our animation. So to do that, I'm going to select all my mocap, which has not been applied to my character yet. You can see it. Here are all the keyframes. I'm going to select everything except for frame 0. You can see frame 1 there. And I'm going to move that mocap to frame 30. Which is probably too much, but we could do 15, but I'm going to do 30. You can see 30 down there. It's very small. But basically I've moved all the mocap to frame 30. So now, hold on a second, what happened? Hold on. Oh, right. Got to go back to frame 0. Okay, let's do this again. All my mocap. Let's move it to frame 30. Oh, 31. 30, and I can see the beginning there. I don't know, why is it doing that? Interesting. Well, maybe we just won't focus on the marvelous designer aspect of it. But essentially what you'd want to do is put this space there. So let's not worry about that for now. The great CG live streaming refrain. Let's just not worry about that right now. Instead, let's put this mocap onto our zombie, and let's just fix the clipping. We'll kind of go through that instead. So again, there's tutorials about how to do this, but we're basically gonna bake the mocap to a control rig, and that's gonna make it really easy to do some mocap cleanup. So boom, there we go, it's baked through. At this point, we can delete our mocap because we just don't need it anymore. And now, what we can do is we go to Channel Box Editor. I'm gonna move myself back down here. We go to Channel Box Editor, and we open up the human eye. Oh no, and we go to Anim. So Channel Box Editor, Anim. These are animation layers that we can add. So let's just say, starting at the first frame. Basically, what I normally do is I go through and I kind of do maybe I'll do each hand in a different animation layer. Renix, effects, VFX, what's going on? Good to see you. Back from a little hiatus, we are going through some, mocap cleanup. But yeah, so you can see right off the bat here, and I'll disable joints. This, we have some weird intersection from the hands. So we probably don't want that, just first of all. So what I'm gonna do, select this hand controller, and on frame 1, it doesn't really matter actually yet, but I'm gonna select the hand controller and I'm gonna click this little create layer from selected. And you can see that all of those keyframes just disappeared. And so they're still there on this base animation layer. But now we can add a new layer of animation on top of our base animation, and that will allow us to do non-destructive editing of our motion capture, right? So if I just move the hands out, again, because this is IK, this is why I love Maya so much. You can do this in the other softwares, but it's so much harder to set up. Just the whole arm is like moving, right? We can just move this hand out a little bit, hit S to add a keyframe, and I'm gonna go through and just do the whole left hand. So the next thing that we'd probably wanna fix. Nice, Renix, that's awesome. Are you competing in the first and second place in Clint's contest? Win a new suit. First place is a whole new performance capture setup. We're gonna be running more contests, I think, this summer too, if you're curious. So yeah, next thing we want to do, yeah, totally. Okay, next thing we want to do is fix this clipping in this arm, and all I need to do is affect that hand to fix this, right? So I added a keyframe here. So here's the clipping, so I'll back it up a little bit. I'll add a keyframe here at the point of clipping. Move the hand over. How easy is that? Add a keyframe. Look, no more clipping. Then what I can do is right here, I'll add another keyframe here, and at this point, let's say here I just want it to go back to what it is in the original mocap. I can hit this 0 key layer, and it will 0 back to the base animation. It'll undo essentially. It'll add a keyframe that is go back to what it was before we added anything to this layer. So, keep playing it through. Looks good. Looks good. And the last thing I'm going to do is, again, frame 144 is where it ends. And so I'm going to copy that first keyframe that I made, copy, and paste it at the end. And that's just so that it will loop again. Because if we make this 144, and if we were to make this 1, it's going to loop. See, that hand is perfectly looping. So whatever I do on that first frame for that hand, I'm going to do on the last frame too, right? Because I just want it to go back to how it was at the very beginning. Not that it really matters. It could be in a different position because it's not supposed to loop perfectly. But yeah, there we go. So now we're going to do the same thing for the right hand. So I will add the right hand. I'll select the controller, add it to a new animation layer, make sure that layer is selected. Then on frame 1, I'm just going to move the hand a little bit. Excuse me. Add a keyframe. And then I kind of cruise through looking for clipping. So there's clipping right there, right? So I'll add a keyframe at here. Then at the point of clipping. Oh no, I don't like that. Let's go out there. Boom, add a keyframe. No more clipping. I can 0 the layer out again here. Kind of going close to the face, so at this point maybe just move it out. And then by this point, I probably just want to move it away from that arm a little bit. And then at the very end again, we're going to copy that keyframe that I had at the beginning. Paste it. Boom. Here we go. So now we have gotten rid of any potential clipping issues or anything like that. And it looks great. And we could do more editing if we needed to. A lot of the animations have footwork and stuff that's happening. But this looks good. The other thing that we could do is we could add a Butterworth filter to this, which is a smoothing filter that's basically going to smooth out all the animation. The animation already looks really good though that Clint gave, and maybe they did some smoothing on it already, so you don't really need to do that. That's normally a part of my workflow, and that's why I like Maya as well, because Butterworth is such a great filter, and it just makes things look so much smoother and more Pixar-y. And we shake a lot. We have a lot of small micro movements that can look unnatural sometimes when you see it on a digital character, because you expect VFX characters to kind of have weight and to really be solid and to hold not be like shaking this little water in their hand. Like the water stays in the same place when they, so it can smooth out some of that stuff. We don't need to do it here though. And yeah, at this point I would just export this character out, and then I work in Cinema 4D. So if you work in Unreal or whatever, if you're an Unreal master, then go ahead and do your retargeting in Unreal, because there's a relatively simple way to bake it to a control rig in Unreal and do the editing there. I just think Maya is really good at this, so I do it all in Maya. And I generally, the same way that you don't make custom items in Unreal, you make them in Blender or you make them in Cinema usually. You don't sculpt usually unless it's a landscape. I mean, these are generalizations in Unreal. Unreal's good at what it does and it's not good at other things. And motion capture editing, animation work, there's a reason why Maya is still an industry standard. It's because it's been doing it for 40 years at this point, right? Since Jurassic Park. I think that was Autodesk Maya early, but maybe not. But either way, there's a reason that people still use Maya. It's great for these kinds of things, for mocap editing, for animation layers, Butterworth smoothing. It's great. So I do recommend using Maya. That is the best program, in my opinion, for doing retargeting. Yeah, at this point we can kind of jump into cinema, and I was thinking maybe we just kind of work on the scene that I was doing, and I can kind of show you some of the, if I was going to go to Marvelous Designer, I'm going to exit out of this. Let's go. So if we go to the Moving Meditations sample, Cinema 4D sample, sample project file. Let's open it up. Here. So this is what Clint gave out, and he did it for Blender. Here's the FBX of just the scene, Maya, Unreal. All you need to do is replace this character, right? So let's go grab the character that I have used, that I made, which is, if we go to the, I've just been doing it real dirty on the desktop. Go load in this guy. This should be my Daz character that yeah. So here's Wither. And we're gonna go and just re-add the textures. Models. Daz. Wither. Here's Wither. Let's hide joints. Let's hide. So again, he starts at frame 30, right? Boom. So I need to readjust this because I did that for the Marvelous Designer workflow. So I'm going to change this temporarily to like 180. And so we're just gonna have to move this animation back 30 frames. But if we pull in the Alembic that I exported from Marvelous Designer, (24 frames). Oh, golly. What is it? Where was it? This is messy, messy, messy. Where was this guy? So I already did this. Out of Marvelous. There it is. And you can see oh, there it is. Here are his clothes. Just scale it properly. And let's hide the stand-in. Here we have some Marvelous Designer, a little kimono action kind of vibe. And, we've Wither, and he does this, he's actually not doing the full, I'm going to do a little bit more animation on his head. For example, I want his, you can do this cool thing with these Daz characters, especially these zombies. go and grab the lower jaw. And like right here when he turns, this has no keyframe, so I'm gonna add a keyframe. Right here. Yeah. Yeah. Add an auto key. Oop. So pretty neat looking, I think. Pretty spooky. And then actually what I even want to do is like, what would be cool is to go in and do some weird neck movement too, but I think I'm just gonna leave that. And yeah, so this looks pretty freaking cool, I think. Pretty neat. Where's this other camera? Why does it look like this? Oh, weird. There we go. So obviously what we would need to do is make this so that if we give the skeleton a motion clip, this is kind of the animation layer in Cinema 4D. If we give the skeleton a motion clip, we can just take this and scooch it back 30 frames. I think it's got to be 30 frames exactly. How do I? There we go. And let's make this 144 again. So this is the actual, this is what it should be. Does this loop perfectly? Yes. So that's great. And then we would just need to go to the alembic and you can just modify, offset it by either, what is it, -30? Yep, so there we go. So now it's correct. And let's hide the character controls. Looking pretty cool. Hey, Knack, good to see you. I'm not a judge. I don't know who the judges will be. One day maybe. But yeah, no, not a judge. I'm sure they'll be awesome, crazy, cool people. So my question is actually, do I need to shrink? So here's the stand-in. So I feel like I kind of would want all of my character to be a little bit like 0.95, 0.95, 0.95. Like I want the hands to be right where that character's hands are. 0.9, 0.9, 0.9. Oh no, 0.95. Ah, 0.95, 0.95, 0.95. Because I gotta lower him back down. Choop. Onto the ground. Yeah, that's the, there we go. So I want the hands to be right where that stand-in's hands were. Looks pretty cool. Man, this is gonna be a crazy montage when it comes out. And then let's try and get some textures on here. When I use Marvelous Designer, it's kind of a wonky workflow. The way that I do it is that I export alembics out of Marvelous, but you can't export that with textures. So then what I do is I'll go grab, I'll export an FBX as well and add the textures from the FBX onto the alembic. And now I've got all the proper selections and everything, so I could go in and if I was going to grab some fabrics, velvet. I don't know why I would want velvet. Fake fur. This looks cool. Let's grab some fake fur. Here's the good one. Fabric. Cloth, gray, fabric brown, red, leather. Let's grab a bunch of different fabric here, and we could always change the color. And then what I do is I'll just like go and replace these materials here. So like here's the, there's that, and then if I wanted to do, this obviously I don't think is what I would go with. I would probably go look up like traditional Tai Chi clothing colors or something. We'll see if my octane starts. It was not behaving the other day. Okay, it is. It did start. Oof, why are you so brutal, octane? Is there a light in this scene? Path tracing. Here are the octane settings. I don't know why it's getting killed. I might take all this into like another project. Where is all this light coming from? Maybe it's because the fake fur. Oh yes, the fake fur just takes so much render power. Add in an HDRI. I really like the HDRIs from Mr. HDRI. Path tracing at 500. Obviously, let's make the environment, let's get rid of that environment. And now the fun part starts, right? The little environment building. Right. This is where it gets really interesting and fun. I'm probably gonna do like kind of a Japanese temple-y type situation. Maybe with some other zombies in the background, and we only have till Sunday, I think, night to finish this. Whoa, what's going on? Oh, Octane hates my, that's what it is. Yeah, Octane does not like that. So let's redo that. Woo! Killing my GPU. Knack, do you know when Rokoko Studio will come out of beta? I love Rokoko, but I've only found one problem. I can't record long. It takes me as beta. So, Knack, do not use beta. Beta is not production ready, and we've tried to say this as much as possible. Don't use beta. It's not ready for production. It's not what you should be using, so just don't use it. And that goes for anyone else using Rokoko tools. And again, I've said this as much as I possibly can, but it's hard to say because we have this beta and it enables some cool things, but it's just got so many bugs. And also, one of the future updates, I'll get to when it's going to come out. I actually don't have a date. It should be soonish. I hope by the end of the year. Rokoko Studio Legacy, though, is like fantastic. So stick with Rokoko Studio Legacy. It's stable, it's offline, and it's what we always recommend people to use. Beta is like if you want to see where it's going, right? It's beta. It is like very much, it's full of bugs, but then also it's on the cloud. So there's no way to guarantee that your project files are safe because we are still working through that process. So don't use beta. use it only if you're going to do specific things that you need it for, like elevation tracking now, which is amazing and is only in beta. But for everything else, we renamed Legacy thinking that beta would be out sooner, and it hasn't been. Rokoko Studio is our legacy, is our production ready software. That's what you should be using to make your mocap, just regardless. So I just don't use beta. That's what I would say there. And when it will be out of beta? Hopefully by the end of the year, but I can't give a specific date. Hopefully well before. I mean, it's coming up on the end of the year, so hopefully in the next couple months. But again, that's not my department, unfortunately. But it's getting better, and soon it'll be there. And then as soon as I switch over full time, you'll know it, because I'll be doing it on the stream, and we'll make a very big deal about it coming out of beta and being ready for the real world. It's just not ready for the real world yet. So I would not use it. We are entering the final phase of tweaks and fixing things in offline mode, and eventually motion library integration, all these other things that I mean, and again, the reason we did beta is because when it is ready, it will enable all these other things, right? It's been rebuilt to take advantage of, like, hopefully layering in like AI to make the mocap better, smoothing filters and things like that, and like lots of really cool, retargeting in beta, and sharing your characters between people and between projects, and so it will be cool. It's just not there yet. So sorry, Knack. Sorry that you've been in beta. I hope it hasn't been too painful, but it probably has been, because it's in a beta. And unfortunately, it just, unless you're going to use it for very specific things, I don't recommend that you use it yet, which is just the way it is. You know what? I think we're actually going to call this kind of short. We've only been on for an hour. Usually we go longer because we record some mocap. I am traveling back home tomorrow, so I'm actually going to go start packing up. But yeah, I wanted to hop on earlier, and we will next time Clint has a contest or we have a contest. I'll make sure we'll get into this earlier, but hopefully this has been educational, maybe on how to prep some mocap for Clint's contest. It's cool mocap regardless, so it's really worth just downloading the mocap regardless, because it's actually pretty hard to find martial arts kata, martial arts, like cool things, looping things like this. Mixamo doesn't have a lot. The motion library has maybe one or two. I don't think it has that many. And it's hard to do yourself, because I am not good at martial arts, and it shows when I'm trying to record things. So I wish everyone luck who is participating. Thanks, Pip. Hopefully, I'll be able to submit this by Sunday. We'll see. But yeah, it will be cool. Tune in to Clint's contest results either way, because I'm sure it's going to be bananas what everyone ends up submitting. And with that, I think I'm going to sign off. Good to see you all. Thanks for stopping by. And next week we'll have a much more regular session. We'll make some mocap. I don't know. It'll be much more normal at a normal time. Yeah. So have a good weekend, everyone. Wish me luck on my traveling, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, we're gonna sign off.